Not too long ago, I was asked to do a presentation on overcoming adversity. Immediately, I thought of a man I met years ago by the name of Bobby. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Newfoundland parents, but his father died 4 months before as a result of prolonged injuries from the Halifax explosion in 1917. Bobby was raised in Westerville by his great-aunt and uncle. He was twice orphaned by 6 when that uncle died. Bobby was fairly smart, so he finished the Royal Reader by 15, and he applied for the Teachers' College in St. John's, but he was rejected because of his age. He reapplied at 16 and got accepted. On his 16th birthday, he had his picture taken at Fort Pepperell, the American base, because it maintained his American citizenship. After Bobby graduated, he taught for 2 years in isolated communities around Westerville. Returning to Westerville, he met and married the love of his life, Marion. 2 years later, their daughter Rosalie was born. In 1949, he took a summer job registering Newfoundland seniors for the new Canadian Seniors Pension. In Glovertown, he started feeling sick, fever, joint pains, and weakness.
No, he came down from Gamma on the boat, and they were leading him up because the strength was going out of his legs. The doctor used to come down, and after this, he called me in the pantry. He said, I believe, he said to Mrs. Windsor, he said, your husband, he said, got polio.
He needed an iron lung, or else he would die. The only ones available were in St. John's, and the steamer and train would not get him there on time. One of the local hospital staff suggested the Americans in Argentia might be able to help. They were telegraphed that an American citizen would die unless he was airlifted to St. John's. A PBY was dispatched from Argentia, and it landed in Bennett's Cove, Westerville. Using rocket boosters, the PBY took off from choppy waters. They finally landed in St. John's, and an ambulance met them and took them to the hospital. Bobby spent the next 4 years in hospital, spending weeks in and out of the iron lung as the polio relentlessly attacked his nervous system. Finally, a physiotherapist suggested a stomach brace to hold Bobby's diaphragm in place. Although Marion was advised to abandon her husband, she instead got a job as a nursing assistant. When Bobby left the hospital in 1953, he was totally paralyzed from the neck down, except for 10% of his left arm. He would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Bobby and Marion were determined to live as normal a life as possible. So they started a small shop in Westerville, soon to be followed by a restaurant and then a newspaper, The Messenger. Marion worked tirelessly to keep everything running. Typing The Messenger was painstaking. With his left arm poised above the typewriter, he let his hand drop, hitting the key with his middle finger. Together, Marion and Bobby formed an unstoppable team. He was the brain, she was the brawn. Running a restaurant and publishing a newspaper requires lots of help. Teenagers, men and women, all did their part, cutting up potatoes for fries, delivering newspapers, watching the shop when Marion was busy. All of this required having many people in Bobby's life. They would share his business, his thoughts, his struggles, and his victories. Bobby in turn tutored, counseled, encouraged, mentored, and loved unconditionally. One day, Marion came to Bobby crying. Mrs., what's wrong? Bobby, we're having a baby, and I don't know if I can take it. Mrs., we made it this far with the help of family and friends, and this youngster is a gift from God. 6 months later, Marion brought their son home. She placed the baby on the wheelchair board. Mrs., you better wrap my arms around him. He's wiggly. I don't want to let him fall. She took his limp right hand and placed it over the baby. Bobby took his left hand and hugged the baby as best he could. That's when my father hugged me for the first time. This man who needed so much, gave so much. His life was an open book and an open door. People came in and they went away better. That was my dad. That was Bobby.
40 years ago, my father left old Aaron Shore. He had a shillelagh in his hand and not a penny more. He got the job and got the wife, then got a family. And then he died and left his old shillelagh stick to me. Sure, it's the same old shillelagh my father brought from Ireland. And if a man was furred and he as he walked with it in his hand, he'd lead the band on Paddy's Day and twirl it round his mitt. And divil a bit we laughed at it, or Dad would have a fit.